Hello and welcome to this episode of the Mandarin Crip Theology podcast. We are delighted and honored today to be joined by Zoughbi Zoughbi, director of Wiam Centre in Bethlehem and a contributor to the journal issue on trauma and resilience. We are so privileged to have published your piece. I don't think we have any announcements today, although Oscar the cat is popping in to say hi.
Yes, he loves to be on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll jump right into a conversation. Can you introduce yourself and talk about the piece you wrote for the journal, Zoughbi?
Okay. My name is Zoughbi Zoughbi, and you call me by either name. I am from Bethlehem, Palestine. I am the founder and director of Wiam, the Palestinian Conflict Transformation Center. I work in Palestine as well as Israel whenever there is possibility. I work locally, regionally, and internationally. And our work is to address the needs of the local community through different programs for children, youth, women, and men, and of course, through advocacy and through cultural exchanges. Some might ask why you are spread so all over. And I'll say because we are a community-based center, and the family is a viable socio-economic unit. We work with women to enhance and to empower women through gender sensitivity, gender justice, gender mainstreaming. And we focus on UN 1325, Security Council of the UN, which talks about women, peace, and security. And we work in the village, in the refugee camp, in the city. As well as we are working with women in the local scene, regional and international. And we were part of many organizations that we have gender policy. Not only we raise awareness through seminars, workshops, conferences, but also we are around the clock solving conflict, offering psychosocial support to women and other members of the family. We work also with youth, and we try to have our youth to be assertive, not aggressive. And we talk about youth in Palestine, as you know, 1/3 of the male population have been in jail. So we try to help them to ventilate, air out, learn from others through cultural exchanges, work with others, have training in workshops, in seminars, and active in conferences on interdisciplinary issues like peace building, compassionate listening, issues of safety and security, dialogue, and skills of negotiations, as well as we try to work with the youth in to be trainers and to be mediators in the local scene. And, our youth that suffer a lot nowadays, especially the things you have for granted, people die for it. And there is a theft of spontaneity. So this is the youth that we work with. And many times we are not able to have all the youth who registered for workshop or for any activities because of what is going on the ground. We work with children under trauma coping and not trauma healing, because we don't have the post-traumatic stress disorder. It is ongoing trauma, layer after layer. So we work with kids through providing a safe environment to air out, to ventilate, and through peer mediation training at schools and anti-bullying. So we work with the kids because they are hostages to fear and paranoia, and they have trauma, and the evidence of trauma is in the following, sleeplessness, bad achievement at schools, nightmares, sleepwalk, involuntary urination, and lots of violence there. So we try through art therapy, through theater, through dancing, through storytelling, and through intergenerational also groups. So we work with the family as a one unit, because if we want to have transformation, we need to address the needs of the local community as unit, because the family is very important in our culture. And, it's very important to move and to be safe in the absence of security from the states or from, the community alone. So we also have programs on advocacy. And nowadays we are active in psychosocial support, because all our people are hostages to fear. People are in prison, big open prison, as well as small prisons. We work with the community through providing needs. Nowadays the unemployment is skyrocketing. So we try to provide at least, some jobs for people to keep alive. And from time to time, with other organizations, we work to help them in their health issues, like to have operations or medicine, and to provide some food for the needy people. These are just some points about our work.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about this important work that you're doing. I feel so humbled and honored that you're here today to talk to us about all the ways you're helping families. So thank you, and blessings to you for this work. We wanted to ask you, we put out the call for this issue a while back on trauma. We're wondering if you could just talk to our listeners a little bit about what is the piece that you wrote for the journal about? Would you be able to summarize it for us briefly?
It is. Thank you. It focuses on trauma and recovery. And we are talking about the Palestinian society, which is a hostage of trauma, not only children or women, but all members. And I focus on the issues, talking about the 4 kinds of trauma. The collective trauma, which was very clear in 1948, what happened with the Palestinians. 600 villages were leveled and 750,000 Palestinians were refugees, and they are scattered. The Palestinian dream for nationhood, statehood was shattered as early as at that time. And our dreams are scattered. Our people live in refugee camps, in at least 59 refugee camps in the land and outside, as well as, their economic wealth was robbed, their land is taken, their kids were not at school, and so on. The second form of trauma that we are facing, intergenerational. Yes, I was not born in 1948. I was born in 1963. So my elderly, my family tell me about what happened in 1948. Our friends also share with us their stories, as well as I remember even not only since 1948, I remember my mother, God bless her, she talked about the Ottoman occupation to Palestine, and of course the British mandate to Palestine. And this is a kind of intergenerational trauma. I carry it with me. Everyone carry it and pass it to the new generation, which we are not recovered, and I am afraid we are not recovered from what is going on now. The third one is family trauma. Every family in Palestine has a trauma. Either their son was imprisoned, killed, deported, attacked by soldiers. Their land is taken. Settlements are built on their land. They couldn't use the water resources. They are not freely to travel here and there, and all of that. So every family has trauma. And if you look at Gaza nowadays, for example, there are at least 500 families that all the members of the families were killed. What will happen to any survival? Needless to talk about the 2.5 million Palestinians in Gaza are traumatized as a result of the genocide. And in West Bank, we have a slow genocide. So trauma on the family, community, and collective. The fourth trauma is individual. Each one, according to his or her conditions, have a kind of trauma. I wouldn't say every trauma is coming from the occupation, but of course, the occupation has its impact on it. It's like collateral damage, if you'd like. And, this is really very important to see that each person has a different type of trauma. And we don't want to compete for victimhood or compare, but and I think all of us have been traumatized. For me, and this is part of the article, I say suffering is very important and essential for change as a result of trauma or direct violence or indirect violence, which will give me the power to pursue and persist to struggle against the occupation, against the injustice. So suffering is essential for resistance and vitality. As Martin Luther King says, if you want to change things, you need to struggle, to sacrifice, and suffer. So we are in that process. And I look at suffering as opportunity to grow. As we say, if we are not finished by an attack or a blow, this will give me the opportunity to grow and to be much more powerful. So the problems, I look at gifts to grow and to learn and to share about such things. It is like a didactic lesson, and I love to learn from peoples who suffer a lot. I learned from the civil rights movement in North America, from the South African struggle against apartheid in the Northern Ireland, in the Latin America, in Africa. So we are students of history. We should learn and not only say the only thing we learn from history is we have never learned from history. We want to learn. As Israel built the wall, Israel seems forget that the Berlin Wall fell down after it stood tall 28 years, from 61 to 89. Yeah. Here we are telling the Israelis they should learn from it, rather than to build wall. Building bridges better than walls for security or safety. Israel insists on building walls, confiscating land, demolishing houses, creating facts on the ground. So I feel, again, suffering is an opportunity. But that doesn't mean I love suffering. No, we want to transform it. And I love what it is in the 2 Corinthians, what says, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. All of this happened to us, and it's not easy to deal with it. I have a friend, I don't know, who was, kind of their grandparents were victims of the Holocaust. And she told me, there is no healing except the 7th generation.
Right.
And if we say 7th generation in Palestine, and if we define generation by 20 or years, at least we need 140, 150, 180 years to, heal. And it comes after 7th generation from ending the oppression.
Yeah.
In Palestine, we don't have an end to the oppression, to the tyranny. We don't have trauma healing. We are dealing with trauma coping, because we don't have the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
It is an ongoing trauma, layer after layer. So we are not sure how long the struggle will continue. Will it be 100 years? So far, from 48 till now, we are talking about 76 years, I would like to say. How long we need more? And now what is going on in Gaza and the complicity of the world with this genocide. So, but again, we have no other option except to have faith in change and to struggle for change based on, resilience, empowerment, by also having solidarity from people like you. Without solidarity, I don't think our situation will be different. And as you know, today we have an American woman who was in solidarity with the Palestinians, just was killed by the Israeli army in Nablus. She was against the settlements, Isanor Ezgi, and it was killed in Abu Spih mountain to get rid of the settlements supporting Palestinians, and she was killed there. So even, it is a costly solidarity. I don't mean that we need others to be in solidarity with us and to be a cannon fodder, but we want the world to know about these atrocities. And here is American, and probably was killed by American bullets. And as you know, nowadays they are talking about $20 billion of weapons to Israel. So this is really very sad. And needless to talk about the 40,000 Palestinians who were killed in Gaza. Around 95,000 were wounded, and many in the West Bank. And there is, as I mentioned, slow genocide, and the world is silent. The Arab world is silent. The Muslim world is silent. There is no power for UN. UN is teethless. We need to see a ceasefire. We need to see food going to Gaza. We need to stop the polio. There's a polio now. There is a famine there. There is no good living conditions at all.
No.
It is not safe and secure.
Tremendous.
I like what is said. The wound is the place where the light enters. And of course, hopefully, and we will not be pessimistic, because if I am pessimistic, I'm committing suicide. But of course, I'm not optimistic, because if I am an optimist, I lure you. The situation is terrible, and we need to work harder and harder and ask the world to be in solidarity. And we don't want them to be pro-Palestinian. We want them pro-justice, because it will help us and help the others. We should all together with Jews and others say never again, and not only for Jews, never again. Never again for any human being, for any community, whether in the south or north, east or west, third world or first world. Never again it should be. And we need, to deal with this theology of hate. And now we have really theology taught to teach younger generation to hate and to kill and to move towards liquidation and extermination of one nation. It is not healthy for any people, not only for Palestinians, but also for the whole world to witness such a genocide and not stopping it. So the good news that you are here interviewing me and helping me to spread the message of hope, the message of life, the atrocities to expose it, because we are not here against Jews, we are against the occupation. The system is evil. And thanks for helping me to air out, to ventilate, and to go on the less traveled road for struggle based on that we want to live and celebrate life with others.
Yeah, thank you, Zoughbi. You covered a lot there. I know the United Church of Canada, my denomination, has been a partner with Wiam for many years, and we've learned a lot from you about how to be in solidarity and costly solidarity. So my question for you is, I know Palestinians and Israelis are living in midst of trauma. Palestinians don't have post-traumatic because it's very present. My question is, how do you work towards transformation even as you're living trauma every day?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question. And especially the matrix of control of the occupation is beyond our imagination. I have been nowadays in Michigan. I'm traveling to Indiana, and many miles, and my wife, who is from this country, said, how do you feel? I say, depressed. She said, why? I say, I don't see any checkpoint. We are accustomed to be suffering at the checkpoint. So I told her, I am exhausted because I don't see Israeli soldiers. At the same time, really, I appreciate that I don't have any checkpoint here or violence from the military of Israel or so on. So it is really, in a way or another, how to do transformation there. Here is easy to talk for me about transformation. That doesn't mean people here don't have any conflict, but every situation is different in its context. First of all, I say, instead of cursing darkness, I light a humble candle. Instead of cursing darkness, I light a humble candle. How do I light a humble candle? By offering help to the needy, to the people who were in prison, to the people who are without food, without work, who need assistance in having operation or medical help and the psychosocial support. This is we light a candle by having summer camps for kids, for having training for the different segments of our society. And yes, and also not to teach them hate, but we celebrate life. We teach life because, yes, we opt for life, despite that the occupation is bitter, the occupation is ugly, the occupation is evil. We decided to offer. It's not easy as I am saying it. It's a lot of courage, a lot of inner struggle, a lot of ups and downs. It is not easy, and I mentioned that it is daily struggle. And also, to do transformation, we need to risk. For me, any day without risking is not counting of my life. So risking by supporting these families who are at the front lines, by saying injustices are not good in front of the tyranny, by struggling non-violently, by learning from the struggles of the South African, the Northern Ireland, the people in Latin America, the people in the North, your country, and try by disseminating and working for interfaith dialogue, because we don't want to see religion as a source of conflict, but as a resource for peace building, for coexistence, and also to teach us lessons how to challenge and transform the oppression, and this is very important. So transformation is not 10-minute oil change. It is a life experience, and you know it better than me, how to transform the anger in myself. Everyone is angry, even if we are moving away from where we are. There is a lot of anger there and here. There is a lot of frustration. Here I am talking with you and seeing the beauty of this country. I see deers now. Imagine that, I am happy to see them and to see the green around this house. But at home, I cannot see that. I always hear the music of bullets, the demolishing of houses. So I am really, when we talk about transformation, it is a life-changing, experience. It needs a lot of inner strength. It needs empowerment from people, and especially I feel empowerment by people like you, by your solidarity, by your compassion, by your, walking with us, by talking our walk. This is very important because solidarity will not be useful if we don't find a kind of partnership that you are. And with your partnership, you give us more meaning, more depth, more life.
I was wondering while you were talking, would you be able to tell us a little bit about how are you taking care of yourself and your soul while you're doing this work? You're saying before you're exhausted, you're depressed. I think a lot of people who do work to try to make the world a better place are exhausted and depressed. So how do you take care of your soul during this time?
I believe, let me thank you because you helped me to air out.
Yes.
And this is a way and safe way to deal with this, because our work and our life, like, a sponge to absorb the anger of others and anger of ourselves. And when I talk with you and share with others, I am wringing out this sponge. So usually when I am there at home, this is the first time probably in 20 years to have some free time, quote unquote free time. What does it mean? I don't know. But, to air out, to look and smell the roses in the streets and the villages, and to have spirituality that empower us, which teaches towards people to live together, coexist through faith, and of course prayers are very important. I feel, when people, I am going to be in a speaking tour here in the US for almost 4 weeks. This helped me to cope up with trauma and to cope up with negative feelings. Besides, at home, I write, I express myself, I train people involved in conferences, and in the direct action of nonviolence, whether through vigils, whether through, we are careful to talk about these nowadays because the oppressive regime is really choking us, monitoring our email, our telephones, our web page, Facebook. So we are dealing with ruthless system, but also through dialogue with each other at home, through reflecting, through sports or walking, through talking. And this is very important, to find ways, even if you are in a prison, to air out, to ventilate. There is always a window. And if there is no window, you will carve a window. You will create a situation. And I wouldn't really be romantic to say, oh, we shouldn't be angry, or no anger. No, illegitimate anger. It is good to be angry, to have holy anger, to transform it. For example, if I am at home and I see the wall facing me, what can I do with the anger? When, I'll go and have a flower and plant a tree. Yes, there is no water, but we recycle water, to do that. I am angry, for example, when the Israeli occupation is not allowing my wife to live with me. We have been married since 1990. Up till this moment, my wife is not a citizen, and she is on a tourist visa, 3 months, 6 months, renewable. And nowadays, whenever the power to be give her a visa, she will come. So of course, we are separated. We are united. One of my kids supposed to be married in July this year, but we can't because his mother is not allowed to be here. So we moved to have a small wedding here. When my oldest daughter, got married, it was during COVID, and then during the occupation, which was more and more sophisticating us. We have a small also party here. We find some place to ventilate, to air out, to smile, to be gathered with friends and relatives. So you are really searching, you are mining for any thing that lead you to be happy, to be sane, because the occupation push us to be insane, create more hurdles. And again, we look at conflict as what they call it, as opportunity to grow, to learn, and to move forward. These are just some glimpses of how we do it.
Thank you, Zoughbi. I know when I visited, when I was a older teenager, I was impressed and heartened by especially the Christian Palestinian movement towards non-violent resistance. And I wondered if you could talk a little more about the push of nonviolent resistance and how you see that happening in Palestine and in the world today.
Wow, that's a very difficult question at this moment.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, is very valuable question. For me, nonviolent is not a passive term. I like, how do you say it, nonviolent resistance. And sometimes people are mistaken with this term. So we use the term unarmed resistance because it is a resistance. And I think violence will not solve the problem. And with all the might of the Israeli government, with its aggression, will not be able to liquidate us or exterminate us or kill us all. We are 14 million people, half of us living in the historic land and the other half living outside. And Palestinians, from the turn of the 20th century up till this moment, have resorted to nonviolence. And it was clear about more than 300 ways of dealing with nonviolence and more. And you know it, whether from the prophets, from Jesus Christ, glory to him, from Jean Sharp, from Gandhi, Martin Luther King, all of them, they have different methods of nonviolent struggle. And I think it is the only way to be based on struggle that dignify all parties. And it is the only way that lead to a stable solution. Power, and especially ruthless power, could not do it. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, as well as lack of power corrupts. So we need the power of truth. You know the truth, and the truth will liberate you. And we need that to be our motto and a way of life and a way of struggle. And I think there are many ways that we have for nonviolence. And there are many ways that we work in nonviolence, and this is very important to work in nonviolence. And, there is direct action, there is diplomatic struggle, there is the building institution, there is, lots of events that help us to struggle non-violently, especially the young people, to be active in that and to move forward in the non-violent movement. I believe also non-violence, in order to be successful, we need 3 dimensions of the struggle. The Palestinians to continue their struggle non-violently, to get rid of the occupation, to deprive the Israeli government, especially nowadays, this right-wing government, Netanyahu and Smotrich and Beni Yafir, to have justification. And we shouldn't be naive saying, oh, if the Palestinians behave like that, then they will have their goals achieved. No, whether we are non-violent or violent, the Israeli government would like to get rid of us. And some even say, if our prime minister was Gandhi, and the religious minister was Martin Luther King, and the social minister was uh, Mother Teresa, and so on, Israel will not, recognize us and will not stop its aggression. So, it is not easy. Non-violent struggle by Palestinian is not enough and will not be successfully kicking out the occupation alone. We need the pro-peace camp in Israel, pro-justice. Although they are small in number, but they are a ray of hope. We shouldn't also be kidding ourselves that the demonstrations against Netanyahu, all of them are based on peace groups, but some of them are there and they are a ray of hope. And that doesn't mean those who are in the labor is better than Netanyahu. I know that Israel as an occupier, no matter who is the regime, will continue. So also we need to empower the peace camp in Israel, which is based on struggle for equality, for citizenship, for two-state solution, or whatever is the future. The third dimension, and here I am talking about, very important, is the third party, which is from states, from other groups, like UN, from churches, interfaith groups, students movement. I appreciate all the movement on the world, whether in Canada or United States or Europe, who really are not happy with what is going on, and they would like to voice a voice against the injustices. This is a ray of hope, stronger ray of hope. So we need the third party to be with us, to empower the weak, but to bring the strong to their senses and not to their knees. This is the role of the third party, to empower the weak and to bring the strong to their senses, because we are not interested in punitive justice or only, or the justice that is based on retaliation. We want restorative justice to redress the wrongs rather than revenging. So, and I believe at this moment we need a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire, and then to have people to feel safe, to provide them with necessary things for food, for water, for medicine, and to fight the polio, and to kill the famine. There are lots of ways. And then to have confidence building measures, to release the prisoners, not to kidnap and kill and torture prisoners, to release people who are in prison for longs of time, and to embark on mutual confidence building measures, and then to have to jumpstart the peace process, that will lead to justice. We don't want it to be a way that the Democratic Party will win the elections if say, oh, we need a ceasefire, and then sending $20 billion of weapons from the states to Israel. So we need to address things by their names, to call it by their name, and to be based on truth and reconciliation. This is the opportunity now. After so many killings, after so many wounds, after so many imprisonment, after so many human rights violations, it is the time to build a new approach, to build trust and move forward, and to lead to justice and reconciliation. And this is where nonviolence will be crowned, and nonviolence will be the best way to deal with aggression and injustice.
Thank you so much, Zoughbi. Yeah, nonviolence and justice is all. It's my prayer and my hope. And we will keep Wiam and your work and you're speaking this mountain of us. So thank you so much for your time and your storytelling with us. These are important aspect of justice we need to hear about in midst of trauma.
You are welcome, and thank you, and appreciate what you do, and really wonderful to hear you and to be reconnected with you. You are my renewable source of hope. Thank you, thank you, thank you.